Hello, Reading Choral Society, and welcome to another edition of Choral Distancing. Welcome to my friendly apartment. I'm here in the Mount Airy neighborhood of Philadelphia. I really love this apartment. I love having a piano here, having the soundboard off and seeing all the mechanics of it. Here's a little look around the place. And so yeah, I did paint those cabinets by myself, by the way. That is a home project. But I got a lot of light in here, a lot of books, a lot of instruments, and I'm using them all to stay busy and stay occupied. I hope that you're staying safe, staying busy, staying sane as we all ride out this time of unknown. And so I really do sincerely wish you the best, and I hope that these next 10 minutes or so can be a little distraction from the mundane that we're all going through. So next I want to do some singing now. We'll start with some vocalese exercises that sound very warm-up like, and then we'll progress to some other exercises that may or may not be helpful, but in my mind I think that they might help feel like ensemble singing, even when we're all, as we know, choral distancing. So this first one is really quite simple. It's just a sighing kind of motif. So we'll just go hum, ah, and really feel each note as you descend. Hum, ah. Here we go. And hum, ah. Hum, ah. Hum, ah. Hum, ah. Hum, There we go. And that's another thing that connects to those breaths that we were working on. One thing that we tend to think is that we have to push through to the bottom. And instead, if you just release your muscles and relax it, your voice will just fall naturally into place, I find, in my very unpedagogical way of explaining it. Cool. So the next thing I think we'll do is something that goes a little bit more upward. It's based on a major seventh, which is my favorite interval. We'll hear a couple of major sevenths in today's edition of Choral Distancing. So this one, it starts off with a triad, and then we walk up, but we don't quite get to the octave. So it's going to sound like this. And let's just articulate this on na each time. So it'll sound like na 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 na. Here we go. Let's try it all together. Na 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 one more thought to this, which is my philosophy as a choir conductor is that warm-ups should always be connected to the overall music making that you're doing. And in this case, when we don't necessarily have an immediate goal that we're working towards, I think that it can be really special to find musicality and expression within something as simple as a warm-up like this. And so the way that we can do that is by two things. First off, giving ourselves a little bit of a dynamic phrasing to this that corresponds with the natural arc of the line. And so here we go up. And so there's a little bit of a crescendo, and then just like the Bella Signor warm-up that we do, just a little bit of lingering on the top note to give it that kind of sense of expression. And then the second thing that we can do is put as much attention towards the tone that you're making and the vocal production as you do towards where you fit in the harmony. So of course, landing at the top note on the 7th is this very expressive harmony, this expressive interval. And of course, it's a 7th against the root. We end up making a major 7th chord. And of course, my piano is a little out of tune, but it's something where we want to make sure that we're locking right into the pitch right there. So let's go down a little and incorporate those two elements of expression into our singing. We'll start down here. 2, 3, and so next up, what I'd like to do is, it's a little bit of a stretch for a warm-up, but since we're in these kind of unprecedented times of choral distancing, I thought that I'd draw on something maybe a little more creative to make it feel as if we're participating in ensemble singing. So to give you a background, this warm-up comes from my days in pop a cappella, which is something that I did a lot of before meeting you all in Reading Choral Society. And this is a warm-up that we would typically do in 4-part harmony, but what we're going to do now is we're just going to sing what we would call the post in a barbershop tag, and all the chords will change around us while we focus on one note. And my hope is that to you singing at home, it feels a little bit like participating in ensemble singing while still being physically distanced. So, how it works, again, we're going to employ my favorite harmony, my favorite interval of the major 7th. What we're going to do is just hold one note. Let's start down here. And we're going to go through our 5 typical warm-up vowels. So that'll be ni, ne, na, no, nu. So we're going to go ni, ne, na, no, nu. And then with the harmony, it'll sound like this. So that first one, we are the 3rd in a minor 3rd. it walks down. We're the fifth in a major chord. Walks down again. We're the minor seventh in a minor seven chord. And then it shifts again and we become the major seventh. And then it resolves down where we are the root in a major chord. So listen just once more, and then we'll join together, and we'll go up by a half step each time. So this is where we start. Just listen once. It'll go. I apologize that my piano is a little bit out of tune. I do have a tuning wrench here. I've just been a little bit lazy. It makes it sound more jazzy. Let's just go with that. Alright, so let's give it a try. This is where we'll start, and we'll go 1, 2, and that's that one. So that's all from me today. I hope that you're staying safe, staying sane, keeping engaged creatively, intellectually, socially through distancing. It's been really nice to Zoom with all of my family and kind of connect with some people that I hadn't really connected with otherwise. It really makes you think about everybody who's in your life. One thing that I'll share with you that I've been doing during this time is after our bluegrass concert, I went and bought a mandolin. I've played guitar for many years, 10 or 12 years, and I'm really into this musician named Chris Thiele. He's a mandolinist, and he hosts a radio show called Live From Here, which used to be called Prairie Home Companion. He's the successor to that. And what he does is he kind of expands the reach of the mandolin beyond just bluegrass and plays a lot of Bach in particular. And so I've made a couple of videos of multiple little screens of me playing multi-part works by Bach. Usually they're keyboard works that I then put onto the mandolin, and it's been a really fun project to occupy my time. And so I'll put a couple of the links there. I'll give you a little preview right here. And yeah, I really am thinking about you a lot. We'll find a way to see each other again, and again, I wish you the best, and keep singing, and see you around.
Hey, Kevin, what did you do when you were stuck at home during the coronavirus? Setting the bar high there, friend. I have no doubt that before long, you will be playing with Chris Thiele. Well, hello, Reading Choral Society, and thank you, Kevin, for that warm-up. Here we are. This is my attempt to live the phrase, he cleans up nice. However, I am continuing my quarantine goatee experiment. Not sure how Robin feels about the tickles, but there you go. So here we are in our rehearsal. But before we get going, I just have a little bit of news. This week, we're going to work again a little bit on that movement 7 of the Rachmaninoff. It is relevant to us, and it's a gorgeous piece. I know I had some people a little frustrated dealing with the language while you're also dealing with the stress of being stuck at home. Yeah, I'm here to energize you and entertain you and hopefully give you a little fun. But I do also want you to know that I'm trying to use this time to work towards something as well. Hopefully you see that. So I'll try and make it easy. I'll try and shake it up a little bit. But this week, again, we're going to do a little bit of work on the Rachmaninoff. This time I'm going to focus more on the notes. There's no need for you to wrestle with something that doesn't feel up for it. You can just sing along a loo, 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 or do, 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 or you can try learning the part with the words. It's your choice. You're in charge. Rehearsal in your own home here. I will get some other songs in there as well as we go through the rest of April in our regular rehearsal schedule. We might even get a little bit of time on the new Gloria that was written for us for the Gloria Singers. Not sure exactly when the materials for that are going to be ready, so don't hold your breath, but in a week or two, we might be able to get something out on that so you can get an idea of how it's going to sound, and we can maybe even get a little head start on it because we're so excited to premiere this piece that was written for us in the Gloria Singers. But back to business. Yes, we're continuing with the Reading Choral Society to think about the future, think about all the concerns that I can imagine you would think we would be facing, which is, we're looking at an economic downturn. What does that mean for arts organizations? We're looking at what other arts organizations are doing. Trying to predict the future is always your job in this sort of business. So trying to predict the future and make a flexible plan for next year that's going to be realistic, reasonable, and still do the best to do what the Reading Choral Society does, which is singing, presenting this music, gathering people through music. Gathering people at the moment is not what we want to be doing. So we're reinventing. We're figuring things out. Thanks for your belief in what we're doing, your trust that we're doing our best, and any of your ideas as we go along are certainly welcome to help us see new angles on this sort of thing. Everyone's figuring it out. That means we are meeting online, phone conversations, whatever it takes to keep going and keep working on this kind of stuff. And I've got a little greeting. We had a little meeting actually earlier today with Susie and Bob.
Hello, everyone. So good to see you all. Just wanted to let you know that you're all in my thoughts and prayers, and be safe and stay well.
Hi, everyone. I'm here in my home in Leesport. I hope that you all are staying home and nice and safe and sound. We're missing you each Tuesday, but I hope this will take our place of seeing each other. Stay safe.
Thanks, Susie. Thanks, Bob. See you back in the video. Great. So let's get singing. That's what you're here for. You've sung a little bit already in warm-ups. Thank you, Kevin. So we're going to jump right in. I'm sharing my screen here, and you will be able to see the score of what I'm working on. Again, links down below. I mentioned to you that I put up Kevin mentioned that he'd share some of the links. I've stuck those way down at the bottom of the video description if you want to look at his mandolin work, little experiments there. And up higher, I've got, again, the link for this score if you want to just download the PDF and look at it on your screen or however that works best for you. We will be doing this piece in the fall. However, we'll be able to hand you music at that point. So if you don't want to print it out, but you're able to view it on the screen, that's absolutely fine too. But if you prefer to deal with it in a different way, that's in your hands. So here we are on Szesto Psalmie, which is the 6 Psalms or movement 7 of the Rachmaninoff All-Night Vigil. I'm going to focus on the notes of the first portion of this first. Before we go any further, I just want to note that we divide this piece a little bit. So I'm going to flip through it a little bit with you. Here at the beginning, We've got the altos and the sopranos actually singing in unison. You're singing the same part. It says just soprano 2. The soprano ones, that's what those rests are for. But the tenors are split into 2 parts. Tenors, you generally know if you're a tenor 1 or a tenor 2 because RCS does that kind of split all the time. So that's okay. But I'm going to scroll down here to the bottom system. And the basses, you're still resting. Soprano 1s, you're still resting. Although soprano 1s, I encourage you to learn the soprano 2 part here because we might play around a little bit with number of people singing it. So it would be well worth your while. But yeah, we get to the last measure of the page, and the bass 1s come in. Notice the tenor 2. When you've got a 1 and a 2 part in this score, the stems up are the 1 part, the stems 2 are the down part, which makes it easier. But when you get a little rhythm like that, that can get difficult. So stem down is tenor 2. Tenor 1 keeps going. Tenor 2 sings a quarter note and then turns into rests. Just helping you figure that out. That's the bass 2 rest down there. And then we go over the page. Oh, I scanned my fingers there over on the right-hand side. How fascinating. So we go a little further down onto the next page. And here you have bass 2 entering right at the beginning of the page. This is one of those moments which in the fall, I will tell you, bass 2s, at the end of the previous page, you're going to want to write in that you come in right away because you turn the page and you see the note and it's too late. So that's one of those spots, if you know what I mean. And here's where it gets a little complicated. We don't normally divide it into 3 parts on a regular basis. Whenever we divide into more than 2 parts in a section, we figure that out. So sopranos and tenors, you may be looking at this page saying, I don't know if I'm a 1, a 2, or a 3. Well, for learning the notes right now, I would encourage you to still grapple with the piece and get familiar with it. Go ahead and pick a part based on what you think you're going to end up being. And when we go over things in the fall, it's actually relatively simple. We'll make sure we work on finding your note. I'm not going to do that in the rehearsal today, how to find your note. And it's relatively simple to switch parts in these simple sections. So just pick one for now, and we'll sort it all out in the fall based on balance. If you want to learn all 3, have a ball. Right, so there we are. Road mapping on. We've got sopranos being the bells there. Slava. You notice that there's an accent. This goes for almost everyone eventually on the bottom system as well. Notice there's an accent on the first note and a tenuto on the second note, and the first note is louder and the second note is quieter. That's meant to be the idea in Rachmaninoff's mind of the bell ringing. Boom, boom. So it's a harder hit the first time, and then it's the echo, the little swing back. That's what he's trying to do there, and you'll see that all over the place. And then the tenor bells echo that. We've still got this original chant melody going along on the alto, and the bass is just droning out. Slow. Your low E flat there, the bass 2s. Any bass who's got that might be welcome to hum along just to keep the sound full. Bottom system. Here we are. We've got more bells in the sopranos, bells in the tenors, and then it just builds and builds as everyone comes in. Notice there's a little soprano 3 marking there with the melody, singing along with the altos, just the soprano 3s. Again, all sopranos, feel free to just get familiar with that melody and those words. Again, if you just want to do melody today, that's fine. I'm on the next page, and we've got a bell from the tenors that doesn't ring back, and it echoes in the sopranos there. It's a lovely piece, amazing structure. And here's where the bells really get ringing out, the bottom of the page, and that's all the further I'm really going to go today. Measure 11, it's this crescendo, and the bells are ringing louder and louder. And then that end of the system there, that crescendo to a forte and a crescendo with the fermata. With a big choir like this, there's nothing quite like that ability to stagger breathe and just really feather that. We're going to work on that in the fall. And then there's a very long pause. And just to finish the road mapping of the piece, it's become so exciting with all the bells ringing out. And then it goes, as I mentioned last week, into this beautiful third part, the hymn. Just vertical. Everyone's doing the same rhythms vertically. And it's just very peaceful and quiet. You see the swells. Rachmaninoff's always big on writing out his dynamics. We'll be doing all of those. And the bottom system there, it finishes up, and we've got some basic divisi. If you would like to go ahead, I will encourage you to learn the notes of this part as well. I'm not going to work on the pronunciation of this last page this week. And next week, I'm hoping to introduce a different type of music. So if you want to work a little bit on the pronunciation of the last page, feel free, but I'm just moving us through the music this week. Let's go back to the beginning. Scrolling you all the way up, here we are at the beginning of the piece. and just working it out. I'm going to go over a couple of parts here, and then I'll send you off to the learning tracks down below. So soprano and alto in unison. So sopranos, that's sort of, you want to be putting yourself inside the alto sound there. That's part of why he marked it soprano 2s, I think. Yeah, that's a long whole note at the end after you've been doing this rhythm. So this is the melody that everyone should get to know about this piece, because this, for the first part of the piece, this is the old chant melody that the piece is based on. So go ahead and get to know it. I'm just going to do it on do, do, do right now. If you've been working on the words from last week and you want to sing them, go right ahead. But this is in octaves for everyone. 1, 2, ready, and do, 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 do. How can we work on stagger breathing when we're not in the same room? I would encourage you, this kind of music, if it's really done right, should have as few breaths as possible if there aren't written in rests. There aren't a lot of places where you want to be interpreting. You'll hear a lot of great choirs doing this piece, Western choirs, that'll put in breath marks, choral breath marks like you would in other pieces. But if you really study the history of these pieces and the way that it's done by the Eastern Orthodox choirs, you don't do very much of that at all, if any. So I'm not going to be giving you a breath at that comma at the end of the top system there. Well, I might give you a little one. I'll have to think a little bit more about that over the summer, but don't expect it. So be ready to take a breath. Practice taking breaths in weird places. I'm going to breathe in some weird places this time just to practice stagger breathing. Let's do it again. 1, 2, quarter notes, go. Going on. It won't really slow down there. I'm just focusing on the melody. Isn't that a beautiful melody? Something I really like about this melody, which I think Rachmaninoff was picking up on, you can see it in the way he composes the piece, is those repeated notes. Do you sort of see what I'm picking up on in the structure? And on that second system in measure 3, it really gets going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then it falls off. And I think that's part of what, that's part of maybe why he chose to do so much bell imagery, well, auditory, audio, imagery of the ear. Have fun looking that one up. I think that's why he chose so much bells in this movement in particular in the Rachmaninoff Vespers, is that almost has a repeated ding, ding, ding ringing out of those notes. We'll want to sing it smoothly, I think, but let's keep that in mind as we're working on it. Great. So I want to talk just a little bit to the tenors now, so sopranos and altos. Keep paying attention because I want you to get to know everything about this piece. I mean, I as a conductor get that great benefit of really getting to know the whole piece inside and out. And well, you're stuck with me right now because we can't break up into sectionals as easily. We will be doing maybe one more sectional before the end of the year. I'm not sure. Depends on the pieces we work on. But tenors, right at the beginning, you have something that's balancing against the sopranos and altos in the way that it works. There's the tenor 2, there's the tenor 1, and you're just moving in half notes. It's just this sort of loop of this calmer moving thing. So when you get that together, you have something that'll sound like, well, I could send you to a recording of the piece, but to give you an idea. And that's where the bass 1 comes in. So bass 1, easy to find your note. I said I wasn't going to work too much on that right now, but in terms of learning your part and listening to the learning tracks, this will help you out there, bass 1s. Your note is like the beginning of the sequence the tenors have been singing. So the tenor 2s go bum 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 bum. There's your note. Dum dum dum. Your turn, bass 1s. So you're really coming right into that structure. but you break it. So the tenor pattern that's been going, when the bass ones come in, they come in starting that same pattern again, but from there on, tenor one and bass one go like this in the last measure there. And that's where the altos pick up on their own. The sopranos drop out at this point going over the page, because over the next page, the sopranos are getting ready to do the bells. So you get, and it's that lovely arrival at the low E flat where the bass twos come in. Great. And then here in our upper part, let me just work out these bell chords. You have soprano 3, soprano 2, soprano 1. Again, go ahead and just get familiar with these chords. Don't worry too much about what part you'll be on. Although maybe if you've been in the choir a while, you might have a pretty good guess. But you never know, we'll voice it. So we have, but the tenor bells sound like this. It's a different chord. We've got an A major in the sopranos and a C minor in the tenors, which creates this lovely little crossfade of moods from a major to a minor chord. And then tenors, the tenor ones move. So you get a little bit of dissonance there in the tenor part. So here's what you get, sort of. Over the page turn. Giving you just sort of a taste while you're looking at it, because you'll be on your own when you go over the learning tracks. Yeah, and that's sort of the structure he's working there. It goes on, and we get different chords. So sopranos at the bottom of the page there, measure 7. You're now doing an E flat major chord, and the tenors will do a G minor. It's the same relationship, but lower. So soprano 3, 2, 1, tenor 3, 2, 1, and this is what it sounds like. And here you've got the melody there in the sopranos and the tenor ones and the altos. Again, it says soprano 3, but you know, enjoy singing along if you like right now. We don't know what we'll do there exactly in real life. And the basses, when you come in here, they go bass 2, bass 1. You've got this nice descending sequence. And that ends us right up back where we were for this next little section where we bring the bells back between the sopranos and the tenors. And this time the tenors go first with their C minor, and the sopranos echo with their A flat major. So it's reversed from what came before. And then here's where the bells really get going. And this is where sopranos, let's work with you a little bit because you've got all those eighth notes. So I'm going to work each part just a little bit here before I send you off the learning tracks. Sopranos, you've come in on your bell ring, but this time you followed the tenors rather than the other way around. And really, if you sequence it out, soprano 1 just does this pattern over again. It's that simple, as complicated as it looks. The toughest thing is figuring out which note is yours on the page visually, I think, here. But it's really not so bad if you slow it down. Soprano, middle soprano is going down. Does that make sense? You're the lower note of the upper stem. So you're in a duet with the soprano 1. And soprano 3, you have an opposite thing. You basically trade notes with the soprano 2. It goes. So if I play the soprano 1 and soprano 2, they're parallel. And if I sing the soprano 3 at the same time, maybe that'll help you pick out exactly what's going on here. Yeah, once you know the pattern and which part in it is yours, it's not so bad. And hopefully that helps you with the learning tracks to be picking out exactly what's going on there, whichever part or parts you choose to pick up on this today with me. Altos, you have a relatively easy part, but note, it's not just you. I know you're in a choir, all of you know that, but right here, you're actually, the ringing back and forth between the soprano bells and the tenor bells in those triads was very easy to see because of the rests. Here, tenors and altos are ringing back and forth with each other, but without rests. So you keep singing, but every time you ring, someone else is going to ring halfway through, the altos or the tenors in alternation. So tenors, we have this chord. That's tenor 3, 2, 1. So va, sa, va, sa. You just carry that through. And altos, you just have an open fifth. You start there on la, and then the alto twos jump down. Right at the end, the alto ones move alone up to the same note the sopranos were on at the top of that crescendo. You join the soprano threes. So you get this texture back and forth of the tenor part, excuse me, bottom up, and the alto. So you get tenors first, I will go, and then altos, I will play you, I'll play the whole, starting at the tenor whole note. So here's measure 11, second half beat. Here we are. So tenor, then alto. Yeah, your parts work together. So when you're learning learning tracks, you're hearing them apart and you're learning them apart, but I want you to know that context. That's teamwork right there, tenor and alto. And then bass, if you're a bass 3, good, solved. You know that note. Do practice singing along with a full recording though. Test yourself. And then bass 2 and bass 1 have this little thing they do where they just go up and down, back and forth, with that sort of swinging back and forth idea. So bass, middle bass goes Slava, right? Just up 2 notes. But bass 1 leaps. It's a third. Slava, right? And together that would sound like this. I'll do the other one. And I'll be messing around with tempo a little bit there. We'll speed up and we'll just slow into that fermata. It'll be lovely. Hopefully you're enjoying the full recording of this piece as much as I enjoy this movement. So that's what I wanted to focus on today. Before we go any farther with the piece, we'll pick that up in the fall, or we might come back to it by the end of April, just depending. We're trying to make our own learning tracks for the Gloria and for other pieces that I'm trying to pick out ahead of time. I was going to finish planning this concert in the summer, to be honest. But yeah, the first 1, 2, 3 pages of the piece is what I'm assigning you to focus on. Remember, focus on the notes this week. Don't worry about the words. If you want to layer the words in because you feel you're ready or you want to challenge yourself, go right ahead. If you don't, just work on the la, 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 or do, 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 or however you want. And if you're on Cyberbass, you won't have the words to distract you anyway. As for this last page, if you want to look at it a little bit, I completely invite you to. You would be getting a head start on learning the notes for it. Gospodie ustnie moi odwiezieszych. But I'm not, no H on the end there. I'm not going to go over that this week or teach it, but you can listen to the recording and get to know the words a little bit. But here's where it goes. You've just wrung out the chord. Let me even give you a little sense of this. I mean, you've heard it on the recording, but you have this huge, huge chord with the choir broken up into so many parts. Like that, forte, and then a decrescendo. And I just love this moment in Rachmaninoff. The piano's decrescendoing for me. And then silence. And then the hymn. Such beautiful harmonies. And it ends with that just open fifth in the bass and the tenor, and it goes on for the rest of the piece. And of course, basses, as we are in such a key, you get to end with that low E flat. It's your final chord. At any rate, that's just a short lead through of me describing the piece, kind of like, this is a bit in reverse. This is how you would work. I would work on it in the full rehearsal, is pointing out all these things. I think you're all recognizing that. But in terms of what you're going to do, I'm sending you off now to those pre-existing learning tracks, which does save us all some time and effort in terms of creating them. And I hope you find those useful and just get a little head start on this piece. So there we are. This will be the end of this video, so we won't deal with the issues that people were having pausing and coming back, which was causing some confusion. But hey, I mentioned that I was going to show you little different parts. You've been here in my house already. It's the same piano, but different angle. I've set you up right where I would normally put the music, because I'm using the same screen to look at that same piece as you. And behind my head, you actually see some paintings. I showed you a painting by my grandfather on my mother's side the other time. And here we have actually a pair of little paintings that I inherited from my grandmother on my father's side. So what's really surprising, I have to say, is that I am not a painter. It's in both sides of my family. But there you get a little glimpse. You just did a couple little paintings of flower arrangements, something to hopefully brighten your day as everything's blooming outside and I'm stuck in. All right, folks, I hope you are as well as can be considered. I hope you are enjoying tuning in with these. And I hope if you're feeling harassed by these videos that you know that these are our Reading Choral Society rehearsals, and I am working to make progress, but they're also really meant to be here to give you some sense of connection and regularity. And if they're stressing you out and you've got so much on your plate right now, I completely forgive you if you're not able to watch them at the moment. But they'll be there for you over the summer, and I do hope if you stop watching them because you're feeling overwhelmed, that you will come back to these and brush up a little bit maybe before we start in the fall, so that I can actually build off of what we've done here rather than starting from scratch again. Yeah, well, take care. Robin sends her best, and we'll see you next week for something not Russian.